Perhaps it is time to begin again.
Star Wars fandom is all over the place. Think about it. There are people that love the original trilogy. There are people that love the prequels. There are even people that love the sequel trilogy. And then there are so many different novels, comics, graphics, and the cartoons in the universe. Not to mention the horrible Christmas special. Okay? So the fandom's all over the place. Some people like some of it, a little bit of it, none of it, whatever the case may be. You get somebody like me that's pretty much in the middle. I like a lot of it, not all of it. And I can go ahead and actually look at everything individually within itself to say, hey, this is good for my Star Wars fandom. This is not. So I'm a little bit probably more practical than the average Star Wars fan. Now here with Ahsoka, you're really starting to wonder if Disney is concentrating on the rabid fans and that Star Wars fandom and then that particular bubble, or are they trying to appeal to a broader audience to go and actually gain more fans? It's a real concern for this particular series because I think this is coming at a very crucial time for Star Wars of which way they're going to go direction-wise for the future. So off top, you know I am a main target audience member, giving that straight main character energy on this. But I'm also subdued enough to go ahead and actually give a casual viewer's take as well. And see, I feel like you always have to know where your reviewer is coming from to kind of evaluate how they're judging these particular series. Because I like to watch the first 2 episodes of streaming content to go ahead and actually see if it's worth your time. I watch so you don't have to. If you like how that sounds, do me a favor. Click like, share, subscribe. And now, let's get into this review. Ahsoka premiered on Disney Plus in August of 2023. The miniseries, hopefully its first season, will contain 8 episodes, each about 50 minutes. The main star is Rosario Dawson as the title character Ahsoka Tano. So the story that we have goes like this. After the fall of the Galactic Empire, former Jedi Knight Ahsoka Tano investigates an emerging threat to a vulnerable galaxy. So when we go and actually take a look at that, it sounds like typical Star Wars plot. Let's go and actually go over some of those expectations for mains and casual viewers. For mains, the expectation of furthering the storyline and the lore of one of the more beloved characters in the Star Wars franchise. Please do not mess her up in this series. Second, we want battles, but especially lightsaber Jedi battles. Give them to, I know there's not that many Jedi left in this particular period of time, but we need that. We need some good battles. Ahsoka is one of the best dual artists out there, and we want to see her fight. Don't do anything that will conflict with the existing storylines. Star Wars is so convoluted. We have prequels, the current, the Skywalker drama. We have the cartoons. We have what's canon, what's not canon, sequels, all this kind of stuff on there. And since this character is existing in this universe on here, we're really wanting you to not go and actually mess up whatever has already been established in the world. So, one of our expectations, don't mess with any of the existing timelines. And finally, for us mains, we definitely want to go and actually introduce to some new characters, expand the universe a little bit, give us some more characters to fall in love with so we can go ahead and actually argue about them, who's better, this person or that, this droid or that, what have you. And for those of you that do go ahead and actually do it, more toys for you to buy. Okay, those are our expectations for us as far as the main target audience. But let's look at the expectations for just a casual viewer. Casuals really need to go ahead and actually explain or show persons or events that they haven't seen as a non-Star Wars fan. Basically, Those of us that are fans, we go ahead and actually watch everything on there. We know what's going on there. But for a casual viewer, this may be their first entrance into Star Wars, or maybe they've watched one or two movies here and there, watched no cartoons, whatever. You need to be able to adequately explain things so that a casual viewer does not go ahead and actually feel like I have to watch hours upon hours of prerequisite material. So make it so that you can go ahead and actually explain those parts and gaps that are missing. You gotta give good characters and stories for casuals to latch onto. Don't go ahead and actually have bad characters, bad story. They'll lose interest real quick. And obviously, show some cool sci-fi elements. Technology, battles, different planets, atmosphere, what have you. Go ahead and actually make something cool and something that they haven't seen before, so a casual can go ahead and actually have something that stands out in this show versus anything else that they watch. Okay? So now we have all of our expectations. Let's go ahead and actually see if this series is going to be on the light side or the dark side. Now, for fans and casuals, the timeline for this is after the events of the original trilogy. The Empire has been destroyed, Vader is dead, and now the galaxy has an emptiness in regards to leadership and government and all that kind of good stuff. Now, a threat that existed before the Empire began, and now with it gone, that threat can now be realized. That's the threat of Grand Admiral Thrawn looms bigger. For a watcher of Star Wars Rebels, a cartoon that was very popular a few years ago, you know that name and you know the threat. For casuals or non-watchers of the cartoon, they're not going to have any idea about who Grand Admiral Thrawn is. Now, this storyline essentially is a follow-up to that cartoon. It immediately piques the interest of any fan of the show, but it takes a bit of explaining for non-fans. I feel the casuals will go ahead and actually catch on to the story fairly quickly, but it won't necessarily be engaging for them unless they're compelled to watch further into the season. There is a very typical master and apprentice motif that Star Wars applies to virtually every one of their main storylines, and this time there's two. There's between Ahsoka and her former apprentice Sabine Wren, who's played by Natasha Liu Bordizio, and from the Sith side of Baylan Skoll, played by the late Ray Stevenson, and his apprentice Shin Hati, played by Ivana Sako. Now, I think the story is good to great for fans of the Rebel series. For casuals, I think it's going to be an average sci-fi film to start. It's nothing that stands out here that casuals are going to latch onto, but it'll be pretty decent for mains that already are on board with the Rebels. You like these characters, you're ready to rock and roll with them. In regards to the acting, Rosario Dawson plays a mature Ahsoka very well. The character is always skilled, talented, and compassionate when she was younger. Now, she's very balanced, skilled, and still feels compelled to go where she's needed within the galaxy. You can tell she's written to be the balance of the two Jedis that she spent the majority of time around in her youth, and that is Anakin and Obi-Wan. And her character in this portrayal is very good. I like the portrayal that Dawson gives to Ahsoka. Now, as I mentioned, Natasha is playing an older Sabine, and she's a bit annoying. And part of it is the way that she's written. She's the hothead, she's the artist, she's the dreamer. And she's meant to be the antithesis of Ahsoka. She probably wasn't the best apprentice, and Ahsoka was an excellent apprentice. But there's also something to the portrayal of the character that leaves a bit for me just not liking how she's being conveyed. At least Sabine right now in these first two episodes, she's not really a favorite of mine. She's a little bit too emo for me. She should mature at some point during the season, and I just look forward to that happening. She's not horrible by any means, but not great. A bit of annoying at this point. Most of the other characters are decent to pretty good. David Tennant is going to continue the long story of likable droids in the Star Wars universe as Hu Yang. Overall, acting is slightly above average for the series, with Rosario really upping it up to being above average. Some other things to note about this series, like we get 4 lightsaber battles within the first 2 episodes, a speeder scene, and some hologram and space cruiser stuff. So we're checking off the boxes for sci-fi and Star Wars intrigue here. The technology is there. Some of the more popular components of Star Wars that we're used to are there. I do think that this story is really enhanced by watching the Star Wars Rebels show first. If nothing else, maybe watch the last season of Rebels and the last season of Star Wars Clone Wars before watching Ahsoka to really appreciate where the characters are starting from in this series. It's not a necessity, but I think it will give you more appreciation for starting on that. So that's just a suggestion from a fan of the franchise to a casual viewer. If you really want to have a little bit more enhancement, go ahead and actually watch those final seasons of Rebels and Star Wars Clone Wars. But it's not necessity, okay? But let me get you the verdict for this series. For mains, I'm going to say watch the entire first season. Dawson is the driving force, and she really seems to be a great pick for the character. Her story moving forward is very appealing. Her Jedi skills are awesome, and she interacts with the other characters portrayed in this series well. I'm hoping the interaction between her and Sabine will become similar to her and Anakin from the Clone Wars. And I think we'll like where this series ends up going forward. For casuals, I'm going to say give it a 2-episode watch. The acting is good, story is average, but if you have any curiosity about the Star Wars universe, this is a good spot to pick up. There will likely be a diving into the lore of Jedis, and you're going to get some good action. And you'll be able to tell if the series deserves your time pretty quickly watching those 2 episodes. So again, for mains, we're going to go ahead and actually watch this whole first season. I just feel like it's going to produce very well. For casuals, watch the first 2 episodes. And that's what I have for Ahsoka on Disney Plus. Check it out. You stayed for the entire review. I appreciate you. Really, I do. Do me a favor. If this review was really good to you, go ahead and actually click like. Even better yet, subscribe to the channel so we can grow a little bit. I'm almost up to 300 subscribers. I really didn't think I'd ever even get there. It was a chore even getting to like 100, so you guys are really surprising me out there. But if you can, go ahead and actually, like I said, click like, share, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Watch one of these other videos. But until the next time that I bring you another review, take care of yourself. I'll holler at you.